Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson and as always I'll be your host. And also, as always, I'm joined by Scott and Joris. Scott and Joris, how are you guys doing on this fine summer's evening?
Really good. I've been out in the garden for a little while this afternoon, kind of enjoying a break from the weather. The weather's been a bit miserable in Scotland where I'm based, but today's been kind of quite nice. But I've been out there enjoying some cups of tea, staring at the pond, pondering our end of season review.
I'm ready for a game of chess. Yes.
Yes, as Scott kind of alluded to there, and yours did slightly in a different way. This is our end of season review episode. If you were with us last season, you'll know that we dished out a couple of awards. We're going to do the same today. We're going to kick it off with our team of the season. We'll then obviously move to player of the season, manager of the season, young player of the season, and then we'll debate our signing of the season. Player of the season, manager of the season, I think we're kind of all in agreement, but a couple of the others were up for debate. We'll also have a goalkeeper of the season, but we think that's just going to come out in the team of the season anyway. So kind of plan is we're going to debate our way through this starting 11. We've gone for Vincent Kompany's favoured formation, the 4-4-2, just because it's the easiest way to fit players in. But also, it does make it a little bit difficult, seeing as though not many teams actually play that and some players have weird positions. But please forgive us. We will try and mention your player that you think should be in that position. Hopefully, between the three of us, we'll get there. Let's kind of go straight in. I know lots has happened in Belgian football, and looking back at this season and looking forward to next season, we're going to have completely different managers for the entire top four. But let's park that until the pre-season preview and just think about this season. Start, obviously, with the number one, Scott, the goalkeeper. Scott, I'm going to give you first kind of calls on this one to give us your pick for our goalkeeper in the team of the season.
I've gone for Antwerp's Jean Boutte, who I think has been consistently impressive throughout the whole campaign. I think, obviously, the season before he was injured, so he missed a lot of that, and he's really made up for a bit of lost time, I think. He also got married recently over the last week or so as well, so congratulations on that note, Jean. But yeah, I've gone for Jean Boutte. I think this was quite a tough choice, actually, because there were 3 or 4 keepers who had a serious shout at this, but for me, I think in terms of his consistency and his influence on defensively a pretty solid Antwerp side across the season, it had to be Jean Boutte for me.
Yeah, no, he's definitely had a good season. I just forgot to caveat that the task we gave ourselves was to only pick one player from each team as well. So this was a lot more difficult than it actually could have been and should have probably been, as well as a lot of Union players would have probably made it in over a lot of other players. So we thought we'd share it out. So Scott's gone with Boutte. Joris, who would you go? You Boutte as well, or have you got some other name to throw into the ring?
I also have picked Boutte, so I'm already sorry, Michael Frey. This indeed means you're not one of my picks later on. I also want to make a mention for Koffie, specific mention for Koffie, who had another good season, but he missed a few games, partly due to AFCON and also because of some injury he took from there. And by the end of the season, he was making a little more mistakes as well. Mignolet was also crucial in Club Brugge's eventual title win. And for the rest, I was a few more left field big mentions, maybe honorable mentions for Kortrijk's Illich, who had to me, surprisingly good season. Anthony Maurice is also one of the lesser highlighted players of that great Union side. I have to also admit that's really purely based on this season. I don't necessarily rate him for his whole career, but this season I think he does deserve a mention. And lastly, I also want to give a shout to Van Krombrugge at Anderlecht. He deserves mention, that's all. Not to win it at all. These are my 2 cents on the goalkeeper position. And well, Ben, who did you go for?
I think most people listen to us know that I am probably Herve Koffie's one of his number one fans. So I had to go for him. I couldn't go for anyone else. But Boutte was kind of in my other team. I had to make a couple of teams, and he was in there. So I'm happy to go the majority on Boutte. I think he had a fantastic season. I also, Van Krombrugge, in terms of highlight saves, is definitely got to be up there, because some of the saves he made was ridiculous, but then his distribution let him down in instances like that as well. Gaetan Kook also had a pretty decent season for Mechelen. He's definitely showing signs of improvement. So yeah, lots of keepers to pick from, but happy to go with Boutte. I think that's a nice one to kick us off with. So Antwerp, you're off the board. Antwerp fans, you can relax now. You've got a player in the team of the season. It's all good. We'll now go on to left back or kind of left wing back potentially. Depends how you want to see it. I feel like this one should be unanimous. But Joris, I know that before we recorded this episode, you said you do have some left field shouts. So because I feel like this one is obvious, I'm going to go to you first on this one to see if you do have any left field shouts, or if you're kind of going to go with the one I think we're probably going to end up going with.
I think I will end up with the one we're all going to go for, but I will give a few other shouts. Again, Union Slapoussin definitely is in the mix for the rest. It was actually quite difficult, I have to admit. Both I also told you guys already in the chat, both the left back and the right back positions. Well, there were less choices in my mind, maybe also because of the 4-4-2 formation and it's being more wing backs, so it's not always easy to see who to go for, just because of the nature of this position. This just has changed over the past decades, I guess, even now. But Lapoussin deserves a mention. Then I had to dig really deep, and then I figured maybe Nkunku from Standard, actually, to also give a Standard player a mention in the whole episode. Did not really do the bad job. Another one which I'm at this position I'm not completely convinced, but yeah, since I indeed was lacking a bit of choices, I'm also taking Buchanan as one of the choices that there, although it's quite clear it's really not his position, but he did an okay job. But the one we are all going for, I think, is Sergio Gomez from Anderlecht. He was the one left back that really stood out.
Yeah, I think that is the one I was alluding to, and I'm pretty sure most people listening to this will agree. Scott, I presume you were also Sergio Gomez at left back as well.
Yeah, he was the first name I noted down actually for that position, and then I went away obviously and doing a bit of my research, had a look at his numbers, and that's when I thought, yep, there's no other show in town here. Actually, some of Joris's kind of honourable mentions are actually quite interesting ones, but yeah, Gomez was one of three names who I just instantly, when I first started thinking about this a few weeks ago, just had to be there. So yeah, absolutely unanimous. Totally agree with you guys.
Yeah, 12 assists, 5 goals over the course of the season from left back. Notice him when he wasn't there for the side. So I think he was, again, I was kind of a similar, I knew who my left back was straight away when we went for 4-4-2. I thought there was no doubt about that one.
Just a small remark, of course, we're saying highlighting his stats, but of course, as a set piece taker, that goes a bit easier as well, of course. But also, well, in his defense already, then again, it was his first season as a left back, so it's also he could still carry his numbers from higher up on the field and actually improve them a lot over the course of the seasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point about all the set pieces as well. But yeah, he's definitely got some quality in those. Let's move across to the centre backs. Obviously, 2 spots up for grabs here. I'll take kind of host's prerogative and kind of take this one and go first and run with my 2 before I hand over to you guys. And people might be a bit confused about why I'm going with these 2, but it makes sense when you go further up the field because I've got to find spaces for other players and other teams. So in my first kind of team of the season, I went with Big Tony Leisner from St. Truden. I thought he was a fantastic pickup. I thought how good St. Truden's defence was. I thought I just had to have a St. Truden defender in there, and I felt like he was arguably the strongest. Bauer has a shout. I thought he was pretty decent in there as well, but I just felt like Leisner, when he was there, they were really, really solid. And to get him for absolute peanuts and then make him captain and the kind of the leader of the back 3 that they were playing really helped Bernd Holleback kind of start from defence, and then they looked to build from there. Next to him, I went for young Norwegian Darland from Cercle Bruges. Again, even when they were struggling at the beginning of the season, he was performing well and he was kind of like a standout player. As they started to get better, he also remained a standout player. I just think he's a fantastic, fantastic prospect. I know Carlos Avina, when we spoke to him about Darland, just waxed lyrical about him. I know they're really, really excited about the potential that this kid has. So yeah, I've gone for Leisner and Darland. Scott, feel free to chuck in some other names. I'm sure there's plenty to go around with 2 spots open at this position.
Well, it's interesting you're just talking about Jesper Darland there, because he was a name I had down on my list very, very quickly for one of those spots as well. I think he's been remarkably consistent and influential, and to a certain extent he's flown under the radar as well. He's actually been a lot better than I think people realise. You go and look at the numbers and you think, actually, Jesper's really made a lot of progress this year, I think, and been a really, really important player for Circle, like you say. So absolutely second that one. The other name I had down as a centre half was Wesley Hoot. Anderlecht. I think he's had a really solid and consistent season. I think he's been a really calming influence, I think, as well. And, for good chunks of the season, he's been pretty fault-free and impressive. So I had him down for one of those spots and kind of haven't really changed. I think defensively, the lineup for team of the season is that's the area that's caused us all the most debate and the most trouble. But I think for me, Dalland and Hoyt have been absolutely standout centre halves and are probably slightly ahead of some other arguably deserved honourable shouts that I'm sure Joris is going to tell us about just now.
Yes, definitely. Well, here my problem was it was also difficult, but again, a bit like Ben mentioned, mostly with also trying to fit in one player per team only, and that where things will be clearer later on. There's a lot of honorable mentions possible here, and I will go for them. I didn't pick Haaland, but both Haaland and Utkus. Also, another difficulty with this was also already it's often defensive duos that are doing well, and if you want to pick one and you can only pick one, it doesn't make it easier. But I'm glad we did that. But actually, for my eventual choices, I'll give it away already. I also went for Leistner with the same reasoning as Ben for the rewarding Stintrade with their defensive record throughout the season. And also I went for another rock there in Agbadou from Eupen. I'm not sure if he would have made the lineup if I didn't restrict myself. He started really well, but towards the end of the season, it wasn't all that great anymore. But I definitely want to give shout outs to Gens duo and Gadeux and Okumu, and actually also to Tonurariga. But he only came in the winter break, and that's let him out as well. Plus another player of Gent will make the team later on. Not surprisingly, also same for Charleroi. Knežević and Andreu did really a good job. There's plenty of more others, of course. As you can see, I didn't really necessarily go to the top teams for this.
It looks like I'm the only one of us three that's going to get a visit in the middle of the night from Binky guys.
Yeah, you better watch yourself. So I think Hoot as well. He was one because I've got Gomez. I couldn't have Hoot as well, but I thought he's been entertaining to watch as well because you can tell he's got that passion. He does seem to love defending, but he also loves a bit of like handbags and stuff like that, which I mean most centre backs do. But looks like because me and Joris went for Leistner, we're going to stick Big Tone in there. Whoever gets 2 votes obviously gets that. So we're going Darland and Leistner for centre-backs. But yeah, obviously there's so many of those to shout. Agbadou, I'm a big fan of at Eupen. I think he's definitely deserves a shout. Knežević and Andreu definitely deserve a shout out from Charleroi. They've been fantastic for them. But there's only 2 spots and they've been filled now. So that's that for them. Now we go on to probably the hardest position. I think we all found this the hardest position due to the restrictions that we had right back. Because, let's be honest, most of the best players play kind of right mid, right wing back rather than as a traditional right back. Even arguably the best right back in the league over the last couple of seasons is now playing as part of a back 3, or did at the back end of this season. Scott, unfortunately, it's kind of worked its way back round to you, so you're going to tackle the right back issue first. How did you who did you go for in the end, given the restrictions we had?
It's funny because you've already hinted at, kind of the obvious one who I initially had penciled in, and he's perennially penciled in even before the season starts. It feels like forever as this permanent, right back colossus, and that's obviously Club Brugge's Clinton Mata. But when I went away and had a look at some of the other performances across the season, I'm shoehorning him in slightly here, as we were talking about playing players arguably slightly out of position. But I do think Union's Bart Newcoop is worth a mention here and worthy of potential selection. I think he's been very good and contributed quite a lot to Union's success in an offensive sense. I think he's been pretty solid. And I think just for the sake of freshness, I suppose, I wrote his name in pen rather than pencil. So sorry, Clinton. It was just the way it worked out. I felt like maybe we should move on from last season where Clinton Mata was our right back as well. Although he has had an excellent season and was particularly good during the playoffs, I thought.
Yeah, Newcoop was the one that I struggled with the most because I was like, I need to get him. I just felt like I had to get him in, but then there's another spot which is so obvious that a Union player just has to fill. And they were the biggest struggle because if you think right back Newcoop, then when we talk about central midfielders, we're obviously going to talk about Union players again. Like, it's just so many of their players could have fitted into so many of these positions. Joris, I'm hoping that you've got a gem of a name that you're just going to bring out and we're going to be like, yes, that's the one that can fill the spot, so we keep our Union pick for later on. But I don't know, mine's very left field, so I'll go with you first.
Ooh, I don't think I will go for a surprise here. I actually have put Mata in there. Also, again, maybe because of the restrictions, as the listeners might have noticed as well already, by the way. So Ben and I did it with the one player restriction. Scott did it a bit less strict. He still tried to not pick too many players from the same team, though. But
Yeah,
just so
that's
in
right,
case you
everybody.
noticed,
I
with,
revolted everybody, didn't I?
with Hood and Gomez, just as a disclaimer. But yeah, no, I did go for Mata, even though technically he's not really playing as a right back either this season. As so little players. Nieuwkoop is definitely up there. Indeed. For the rest, I just have two left field choices that I'm not completely convinced about in Jens Samwaze and in Sint-Truiden's Hashioka. Yeah, these are the only two other names based on this season that I could come up with.
Samwaz is a really interesting shout, Joris, because I think he's had a really impressive breakout season, actually. And he's obviously very, very highly thought of again. And obviously, they've tied him down on a contract extension. So, you know, they really want him to kind of stick around. And Hein van Heisenbroek actually, very recently, just over the last 2 or 3 weeks, when he was having a little pop at Anderlecht when he couldn't resist in the aftermath of the cup final, he was talking heavily about how Samwaz is you know, the perfect example of a young player who's come into a senior side, been really impressive, had a good breakout season, has been nurtured in the right way, and you know, he's done all the things with Samwaz again that Anderlecht should be doing with their young players. Which is a wee bit distasteful for me. I remember saying that at the time, but he's a really interesting shout, and I look forward to seeing how he does next season, actually.
Yeah, and again with him, he was the victim of another player's success. I'm happy to go for Mata. My pick was, left field. I went for, and it's 100% biased, I went for Daniel Apare from Solang, purely based on the fact that I don't think they stay up without him. If you watch like the playoff games, he basically saved a goal in both legs. I think it was 2 goal line clearances from him. I also felt when he came in, he was good for them. He was decent for them. Whether that merits a team of the season place, I'm sure you guys will probably disagree, and I'm happy to go Clinton Mata. But yeah, Daniel Apari was like one of the names that just came to me because I'd already picked a Club Brugge player in a different position. I couldn't go, but I think Mata is probably the one we should go for because I feel like Union players, there's one spot we need to save for them. So unless there's any other Daniel Apari fans in the house, we'll stick down Clinton Mata's name on that one. So congratulations, Clinton, you're in there again.
We can still go over all of the names and come back to this after. But yeah, I think it will stay at this though.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, he definitely deserves, like, I think, like you said, maybe he hasn't played right back, but right centre back's close enough. We can claim that one. Let's go diagonal to left midfield, left wing. Joris, you're on the clock for this one. Who you picking, or who have you underlined for left wing spot?
I'll first give all the names on my list, I think, for now, and I probably will have forgotten some, but I'm sure among the three of us we will cover that. If I forgot someone, my nominees are Selemani, Matondo, Mitoma, Storm, and Dompe, and my actual pick would be Matondo. So that's why Thailand didn't make my personal central back duo, but because I wanted to put Matondo on.
Yeah, another victim of someone else's success. Scott, left wing, who have you gone for as well? I know you had a couple of names for that spot as well.
This was actually a really tough position to fill, I thought. There's a lot of players in there and Joris has mentioned most of them, who've had really good seasons, all got strong shouts for a choice here. In the end, I went with Tarek Tisadali, mainly because I thought the striking positions, which we'll come to in a little while, were kind of obvious ones, but I couldn't in all conscience leave Tisadali out, and I felt this was the only other place that, you know, realistically you could kind of put him, and he absolutely kind of should be in there. I think Joris has mentioned all of the other names that kind of I had kind of penciled in there, so kind of my first choice was Tisadali.
Yeah, then here we go already to a different conflict, because I also have Tisidali as one of my nominees. I didn't forget him, but just not on that position.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And I think that's where it becomes difficult, because he obviously can play there, but I had him more in the striking position. I had gone for Faiz Selemani. I just thought he was so integral to everything Kortrijk did. I know that he struggled with injury post AFCON, which was such a shame, because who knows what could have happened if he'd kind of kept playing for Kortrijk during that time. Nicola Storm as well, yeah, definitely worth a shout. And Jean-Luc Dompe, I feel like when you look at Zolta's kind of results and how they went this season, without Dompe creating the chances for Ghana and Vossen, they really, really would have struggled even more than they actually struggled. So yeah, I don't know who we're going to go for now, because obviously Darland with Matondo's gone. Tissoudali, it kind of depends on who Scott's strikers were, because potentially one of their spots might be gone. If it's Mikkel Frey, then obviously that spot's opened up as a striker because of Jean Boutet in goal for Antwerp. So we're going to have to debate this one a little bit more, gents. Based on what we've done and what we've picked so far, you actually had a couple of names. Matondo now obviously off the board with Darland at the back. Who would you have picked as your second place for left midfield?
I would throw Daland off the back, but okay, that's why it was my team. But I suppose I would go for Selemani. Yeah, I think so. Also, to make our job a bit easier on others, Dompe is also another shout. One of these two is what I would say. I'm open to still debating this further, but that's more for opening up, for not being in conflict too much with other positions.
I think Selemani's a great shout for it, to be honest. In my original selection, way back at the very beginning, when I first started kind of working my way through this a few weeks ago, right after the season finished, Selemani was my first choice for that position. But then obviously Tissoudali came into the picture, and I was thinking, well, how do I fit him around, some of the other choices? So I would agree with yours. I think Selemani definitely deserves a place here, and only missed out for me on the basis that I was ignoring the one player per team rule. But if we're applying that here, then I think he fills that position and probably frees up somebody else who would have been playing up top but now won't get that spot because of the rules that we're playing with.
That was easier than it could have been. Selemani is in the team. It's nice to have a Kortrijk player in there as well. And he did have a fantastic season. Central midfield, 2 spots open. And I mean, Scott, I know you approached this in a way that actually I probably should have done, in terms of actually having a defensive player in there, because it's so difficult. And defensive players are so often, especially in central midfield, so often kind of overlooked. For me, originally I had Mats Witz as my Club Bruges player, just to fit everyone else in. And I thought he did actually have a really good season. I thought under Schroeder, he started grabbing goals and started playing really well. It was so unfortunate to get injured when he did. Obviously, he can't be in the team anymore. Alongside him, I actually had Rob Scoofs of Carvin Mechelen. I thought he's had a fantastic season. He's played in a couple of, he's kind of played in behind the striker, but then he's moved further back to play with Vinicius Souza and played really well. I mean, you could pick between the two of them. I know one of you probably was going to chuck Vinicius Souza in there. If I had to go for more of the defensive midfield presence, that's where I struggle, because obviously Souza's that one of those options. Ilamaita of Charleroi, I think he's definitely a choice in central midfield for that. Also has Javier Mercier, obviously, as one of my central midfield options. Dino Hotic, if you count him more as a central midfield, I think he would have been an absolute shoo-in if we hadn't picked Darland because of the way he played. So many options in central midfield that I'm very much open to seeing what you guys have picked and then kind of go from there. So, Scott, I guess straight back to you on this one. Who have you gone for in central midfield?
Well, I settled finally on Vinicius Souza, Lommels Souza, who's obviously been on loan at Mechelen this season, just finished, had a great season. Really, really good, really big part, I think, of their strong season. A player who's developing really, really fast and is pretty hot property at the moment. Obviously, he's got 3 years in his deal at Lommel, 60% owned by the City Group, of course, who own Lommel. Number of clubs really interested in him, both inside Belgium and outside at the moment. So it's going to be fascinating to see where he plays his football next season. I went with him kind of in the end. Initially, in one of those central roles, I was trying to find a way of shoehorning Faiz Selemani in, because I felt think he should be there. And I thought, I'm kind of playing him pretty out of position if I start to move him too central. So I had to get rid of him, drop Selemani. So him getting that left wing position actually is rather good. So yeah, I mean, I've given the nod to Vinicius Souza.
Great. Yeah, we got a nice little defensive player in there. Joris, who would you put alongside Vinicius Souza in your central midfield?
Well, I actually have two quite defensive-minded players, I guess. But I indeed have Vinicius as well. And my other pick is one I've been the one right thing I said in the bumper preview that we did is Adam Zorgan from Charleroi. Another reason why none of their center backs made it into the team. Another, yeah, I've gone for some really big guys. You could say not necessarily style of play I like in total, but I think it works out. He also still has a good feet. Has shown that occasionally, I have to say, but also take it a bit of as an advantage for him that he does that in his first season on a different continent as well, in a better league. So that's why I did go for this rocky midfield in Vinicius Souza and in my case Adam Zorgan. Other shouts, you already gave some of them. Mercier, Schoofs, Konate from Sint-Truiden, another guy from Leuven, Maartens as well, Mazis from Serijn to give a more left field pick as well, but he's been crucial for them. Yeah, those were some of the names I was thinking. Hotic from Cercle also deserves a mention, and of course, as a mention we can give it. We can't award him a praise, but Nielsen and Thoma at Union definitely did a great job all season as well as a pair, and at Rits at Club Brugge also had a really good season. Yeah, so my picks were Vinicius Souza and Zorgan. The position of Zorgan is then still up for debate, I suppose.
I mean, I'm happy to go with those two. If we're happy to go the slightly defensive midfield too, but I think, like Zorgan definitely deserves a mention, and Vinicius as well. And if both of you gone for Vinicius, so he's definitely straight in there. Vinicius Souza, Scott, Zorgan, or are you going to go more attacking? What's your kind of pick for that second midfield option? Either way, I'm happy.
Well, it's interesting because the other name I've got down in the middle here in my selection is somebody who arguably could have made 3 or 4 positions, so he's probably going to get in somewhere in the end. But I stuck him in the middle anyway, and that was Charles de Ketelaar at Bruges, who is so interchangeable now in his general flexibility that we have the luxury of being able to almost put him in anywhere, and I kind of had him in. It's interesting, I think Rob Skoos would have been another shout for me, but for Gomez Souza, then he becomes the Mechelen player. It's just a question of, I suppose, where we fit King Charles into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to kick out Clinton Matter at this point after giving him the position, then kicking him back out. Well, it looks like with Mata in, we're going to go with Zorgan. I'm happy. I think Charleroi definitely deserve a player in this team of the season. They've had such a good year under Still, and like you always said, he's definitely had a good season. So we're going with the beastly midfield of Vinicius Souza and Adam Zorgan, who can also do bits going forward. I think Zorgan definitely grabbed a couple of goals this season, didn't he? He showed he can get forward as well. So I think we've got enough mobility in there to cause some teams some trouble.
That was an additional reason for me also, I forgot to mention, but Zorgan indeed, he can play as a defensive midfielder, but I guess he's actually more central in maybe even originally attacking, I believe even, but I think he's a bit more playing central as a midfielder, but at least he has the passing to provide to our wingers and attackers.
Yes, and speaking of wingers, let's move on to the right wing position. I think this one's going to be unanimous. I think last year he didn't make it, did it? And that caused outrage among some fan bases. So we're not doing this just because he didn't make it last year. We did it because he definitely deserves it. But a couple of other mentions I had down on my list, obviously now not able to put it. I did have Manuel Benson. I thought he really improved this season. Unfortunate with some injuries later on, but I felt like, again, he'd grabbed some crucial goals. It was actually one of the brighter sparks for Antwerp this season going forward. Despite all the players they brought in, he was really, really good. Trying to think about Samwaz, I kind of had in this position as well, based on the fact that he did play a little bit higher up. He could kind of fit the right back spot. He could fit that that right midfield spot as well. Yeah, and I guess the one we're probably going to go for is Junior Ito of Genk. Another great season for the Japanese winger. He probably did deserve it last year, but me and Scott muscled him out of the team. But I think Scott this year, I think he's going to be this in the starting 11, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he has to be. And actually, when you look at his numbers, his output is even better than it was last year. So, although we might have got away with that last year for understandable reasons, there's no conceivable argument that it shouldn't be him as first choice. So, absolutely got to be Mr. Ito on that right wing.
He has the advantage that Genk was so poor this season. If then one player stands out, and with our current rules, he makes it easily. I think I was almost quitting the podcast when Ben mentioned in his two options he didn't have room for Ito, and I couldn't handle that. To be fair,
the resignation was almost in the post. He just didn't make it in the post.
Yes, especially after last season, he probably deserved it a bit more as well, because I think even with the even numbers were a bit less last season, although not it was close. I think he probably deserved it more last year, but this one it carries over a little. Plus, well, he is the king of assists in the end, of course. So he had the advantage of playing a few more games than Mercier, the second in that classification, of course, as well. A few other mentions I want to give. Yeah, indeed, Benson, but also for not long enough in the season. He had a really good December. For the rest, his stats were not really following. In that position, stats is not everything, but in that position, it's quite important. Actually, another Serie player I want to mention, Jallo, played really good as well. Golizade had his moments as usual. We already have a Charleroi player. And also another one which was really important, but only played half a season in Skof Olsen. Also played a bit lower on the field maybe, but I guess we should give him a mention. Whether you want it as a winger or as a wing-back, yeah, that's up to you. But I don't think he's making the team, but he deserves a mention.
No, definitely. I think Skof Olsen next season, if he kind of shows the form he did this season, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep him out of that team. Ito makes the cut this year. So now we're down to the final two positions, our strike partnership. I think we're back round to you, Scott. I know, obviously, one of your players is probably going to be taken off the board because of another player being in it. But originally, who did you have as your striker options?
Well, originally I had, and this is pretty obvious and doesn't really need much explaining, Dennis the Menace Undav and Michael Frey at Antwerp. For very obvious reasons. I felt like they were the only, if you were going to play two up front in your selection, I felt that they were the only two that really, over the course of the season, were consistently impressive. There are other strikers, I think, who in fits and starts have offered plenty, and this is where the Tisa Dali discussion becomes very interesting as well. But the obvious one to kick off this debate with is the Undav and Frey partnership.
Yeah, and I think that's where I really struggled with like the strikers I went for initially. Is like Frey didn't make it because I had Tisa Dali as a striker. I think he just has to be in this team. I just can't find a way. I couldn't think of a team of the season without him, just because he was pivotal to Ghent's success this season. Like we've run the stats, we've said the stats over and over this season. Like when he's not there, how different their outlook is in terms of going forward and everything like that. And its goals and everything. Like he just made such a difference when he was on the pitch. And again, yeah, Dennis Undav. That's why I haven't had any Union players in the rest of the side, just because Dennis Undav, I was like, he's again one of the first players on the team sheet for me. So I think I have a couple of other honourable mentions, but they were kind of the first two. Kuipers had a good season. Vossen obviously had a very good season for Zulte. Trying to think outside. I guess Kwame and Xerxes up front, kind of victims of Sergio Gomez's success, but I don't think at the end of the day they'd have picked the two that I've gone for. And I think if we hadn't gone for Boutte, I'd have wanted to somehow squeeze Frey in there. Yeah, it's always competitive at the top. Onuachi as well, I think again, he's probably a victim of his success last season in terms of how good he was last season. The expectation was just far too high for him to ever reach those heights again. Joris, over to you. Who have you got down for your kind of strike duo?
When I was writing down these names, I didn't expect to get such a long list. You named most of them already, but yeah, Vos's partner Jano had a good season as well. Kaba had spells during the season. I indeed wanted to give Anuachu a bit of a mention, definitely not deserving a spot in total, but a mention. Still, if you're having a not so great season and still net 21, yeah, that actually maybe says more than the successful season. But yeah, I definitely went for Undav as well. And in the same line as you, I was thinking Tissadali as a striker, but I also wanted to give a mention to Zirkzee, as you also did. Mikko Tadze down at Serre. So apparently there's more Serre players there than I expected in my mentions at least. Prevaljak had a good season. Kuipers definitely also deserved that mention that you gave him. And I think then we are there. But yeah, it really in a world without restrictions that we put on ourselves, it would definitely be Undav and Frey. Now I suppose it will be Undav and Tisodali, which is not the worst lineup striker lineup we can go for.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough.
Oh, so I forgot one very definitely an honorable mention, which a player we will talk about later on as well, I think. But the Ketelaar, yeah, in the end, sad for him, but he doesn't make the team. He's probably like, because of his versatility, he's probably second in many positions, but he doesn't make it. Plus, yeah, that leaves the room for Mata as a right back, I guess.
So he's a victim of other right backs not having success, I guess. That's his kind of issue. So let's quickly run through that team. So we've got Jean Boutet in goal from Antwerp. Obviously, that makes him our goalkeeper of the season as well. So congratulations to him. Sergio Gomez at left back, Jesper Darland and Tony Lyson as centre back partnership, Clinton Mata at right back, Selemani on the left, Susan Zorgan holding down the middle with Ito on the right, then Undav and Tisu Dali up front. I think that's a strong team. Obviously, there's players that people will be like, where's this guy, where's that guy? But again, we put restrictions on ourselves, so that's why we've ended up with this one.
Please also later on already give a comment on if you like this system that we did, or do you think we should go broader again? And just also, of course, if there are any names that we just completely overlooked, all three of us, it is definitely possible. I'm not excluding that option.
We did forget Rabti of Mechelen as well. He probably deserves a shout out. He had a really good season, playing in behind and then on the right midfield position for them. So yeah, before someone says Rabti, I've just said him. So we've taken that one. But yeah, no, if you do like what we've done with this, do let us know. But if you don't, you'd rather we kind of gave ourselves a wider remit to pick players, we're also happy to do that next season. We just thought it gave it a little bit more of a challenge and a little bit of a chance for players from other teams to get a little bit more of a mention. So let's move on to kind of one of our big awards, the Player of the Season award. Obviously, this time last year it went to Big Paul Onuachu. And guys, I think we're all in agreement here that it's going to go to another striker. This one's a little bit smaller than Paul Onuachu, but no less dangerous. I'm personally looking forward to hopefully trying to get to see a Brighton game just to see this man next season when he makes the move to the Premier League. I hope he is successful. Obviously, we're talking about Dennis Undav. What a season he's had. And Scott, I think there was always going to be one winner. We've agreed on him. The kind of official Team of the Season, Player of the Season awards have also kind of agreed on him. He was absolutely fantastic this year for them.
Yeah, I don't think realistically you can really go for anybody else. And you've got to bear in mind as well the sort of trajectory that this player has been on over the last sort of 2 to 3 years as well, to come from, I think, what was it, the third tier of German football, to come to Belgium, to storm 1B with his striking partner Dante Van Zier almost from the off, and then to kind of pick up where they left off in the top division this season has just been this kind of pretty remarkable meteoric rise, which has now got him his big move to England, of course. And he's just been brilliant, actually. And not only has he been consistently good and, well deserving of his Dennis the Menace nickname, but, there have been some moments of absolutely outrageous brilliance from him as well. I remember a goal he scored against Kortrijk where he receives the ball with his back towards goal. And you can tell, because of the way that Undav plays, he's thinking one thing: I'm going to turn and hit it here. And he does. He's not entirely sure of where the goal is, but instinctively effectively. He turns and he hits it and it loops in, and it's just one of those brilliant goals, really audacious. So not only is he, really lethal from a close distance, but he's capable of technical brilliance as well. And he's a really difficult player to play against. The way he likes to roll his shoulder, and he does like the physical side of the game, Dennis, too, which makes him very difficult to play against for defenders, because that's just a nightmare. You never know quite what you're going to get with him. And I think, his confidence has just been at this all-time high for a solid 2 years. So your player of the season absolutely has to be Dennis Undav. No contest really for me.
Yeah, that really nothing to debate here. This season, definitely there's not really a discussion. Also for me, basically, yeah, not much more to add. I'm curious to see to find out. I'm curious to find out how he does in a different environment. If it's if it was the Union vibe and everything that lifted him, and that he also can do it elsewhere. But that's a question that you can ask with any transfer, of course. But a well-deserved award for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, Scott, you mentioned, he did come from the third tier. He was at Meppen, I believe, after leaving Eintracht Braunschweig's Zweite team. I think it was the second team. And I think when you cast your minds back to kind of the beginning of the season, maybe I'll have to go listen to what we said at the beginning, but I think most of the talk was about Dante Vanzier. There was this acknowledgement that there was that partnership between the two, but everyone, I think, was quite focused on Dante after what he'd done in the in 1B in terms of his goal scoring. Undav was kind of overlooked, and then this year, almost kind of a role reversal now. 10 assists as well, alongside his 25 goals. It was 26 goals, I think it was. I can't remember, around that mark. And then the 10 assists as well shows how well he linked up. So, yeah, I really hope he does well next season. And I hope he enjoys living in Brighton. It's a fantastic place to live, so I'm sure he'll be happy here. And hopefully that will relate to things that happen on the pitch.
Is he coming around?
Yeah. See if I can get him round. I mean, I'd probably rather go round to his. I'm sure it'll be a little bit bigger than the place that I live in. I live in Brighton, that's for sure. Let's move on to manager of the season. So I guess this award, whoever wins this is going to manage our team of the season as well. So maybe that'll completely change our formation, because if it's 4-4-2, we'd have had to probably go with Vincent Kompany. It's not going to be Vincent Kompany.
Should it pick a manager of a team that has not been mentioned yet?
Blimey, who have we got then? I can't even think who's left.
No, we've abandoned those rules. We've already tied our hands behind our back and blindfolded ourselves. Let's not tie our feet.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we're talking about teams we haven't mentioned, it just has to be one of the 4 Beerschot managers from this season, probably. I don't think they're the people we want.
I was about to say, there's probably not one manager that has made the whole season. Brest, maybe. Yes. I think that's probably the only one. I can think of top of my head, at least.
Yeah, right. But obviously, we're probably unanimous on this one. It's going to be Mazu of Union. What a performance his side put on in the league, all thanks to him. And you have to admit, in so many games, he tactically was spot on. We've mentioned it so many times, but even down to 10 men, he chucks on an attacker, or they're drawing, and he plays in an attacking way. And it's going to be interesting, obviously, to see how he gets on with more expectations than Anderlecht, and whether he will continue to stick to those guns. But I think there's no debate again on this one, is there, guys, that Mazu is the manager of the season?
There's one manager that could throw a spanner, which is Schreuder, would turn it around at Club Brugge and grab the title.
Yeah, but he wasn't here for the whole season, so I just don't feel like. I think Mazu was consistently the best manager over the whole season.
But he did even better then, because he came from behind on a lesser short amount of time, so it's even more impressive. Or what are you saying?
But also, he wouldn't have won the league if it wasn't for the points reduction. So I think we have to reward that consistency.
That you cannot know yet,
I think
because they had more points over also over the course of the season.
I think it's a really interesting debate that Joris raises, actually. And I have seen some other people mentioning something similar along those lines, that when you look at it contextually like that, is there not a case? I mean, I would kind of tend to agree absolutely with Ben. I mean, I always had Mazu down and nobody else really. And for me, it was really about his positivity and just his approach. And him and his side, his now former side, Union, were almost rewarded with the big prize as a result of all of that positivity and how that rubbed off on that squad, and how good he was at managing that unit and that kind of team ethic, because ultimately it's a team game, and we could probably talk quite a lot about how important is a team unit in any side, and how much leeway do you give to outrageously talented individuals. That was obviously Cruyff's big argument, wasn't it, about, yes, it's a team game, but you need to allow, a certain number of outrageously talented players, almost as free a role as possible to sort of express themselves, where, Cruyff's nemesis, history would have you believe, Louis van Gaal, believes the opposite, and that it's all about the team and the unit. And although roles are interchangeable, discipline, falling back on if somebody moves, somebody else covers, that argument, which is fascinating, absolutely fascinating in itself. But just for his sheer positivity, I think, and the effect that had on those group of players, and coming so close to achieving something magnificent. And they have had a magnificent season. Okay, they didn't manage to get the title over the line, lost out in the end because of the double header against Club in the playoffs. But I just, that relentless positivity, as we've talked about a lot, deserves it alone. And he's picked up all the managerial awards this season, and I think he deserves them all. He won the Raymond Gotals coaching award as well, which I think was deserved. And now he's going into an entirely different environment where the expectations are different again, both in a footballing sense, but also politically, what's going on behind the scenes as new club as well, which we'll talk about more in our bumper pre-season preview. But it has to be Mazu.
Yeah, I also completely agree, though. Also with the state, with indeed, Schroeder wasn't there all the season, but I just wanted to bring a bit of debate into this. And also a few other mentions. Yeah, Franke, who had a good job at Mechelen, as Scott has enjoyed throughout 4 seasons now. Also, I'm surprised to say this, but Van Hazenbroek did a good job. I'm not the biggest fan of him, as you guys might know, but did a good job winning the cup, and also just, well, after a rocky start, really getting it on the rails after the winter break again. And my most left field pick, I suppose, would be Ed Still. And yeah, he's high on my list. He might be second or third if I had to make a whole ranking, because position-wise, not even. He did improve Charleroi, but he also made them look way more positive, and he fitted in a few young players, and all along that in the whole process, and all went quite smoothly. But then again, of course, against the top teams, they struggled all season, as we've repeatedly said, which is normal in a way as well. But I'm happy to see the transformation at Charleroi, not only in the position, but also in the style of play, and as a quite inexperienced manager at this level. So that's quite impressed me.
Yeah, I think he's definitely worth a shout. I completely agree with you, Oris. I think, as I've said a few times, I think Charleroi are ahead of schedule in terms of where that side is at the moment, and to have lost what they did, over the course of the season, to have maintained, a consistency and a degree of competitiveness so late on is testament to kind of how well they've done there. I think another name just kind of worth acknowledging, I think, in terms of how good a job he's done, although he hasn't been there all season actually, is Dominic Talhammer at Cercle.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are other coaches there who part of his staff, Jimmy DeWolf and Miro Muslic, who are very, very important to the work that's gone on there. But I think the recipe that they've found together, along with Carlos Aviña, has been really quite impressive, I think. And he was saying, interestingly, this week that, actually when you look at it, they definitely overperformed, and that the truth of their actual level probably lies somewhere in the middle. And they're one of the sides I'm really excited to see what they do next season, because obviously everyone knows what they're about now, and how our side's going to adapt to that, really high intensive pressing style and physical style that he's instilled over them over the last 6 months or so. But I think he's definitely worthy of a shout, because the work that's gone on there is just remarkable, really.
A final one, I think Ben might be thinking of this one as well now, but Hollerbach at Sint-Truiden.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, he definitely deserves a mention. The way he improved them defensively, or kind of built on that defensively, in the way we were at the beginning of the season, weren't we? We were very worried about them in terms of signings or what they're bringing in, but he worked a really good job with very limited resources. And we've said it, he's shown the ownership and those in charge, look, if you can put a little bit more into this and get him the right players and keep him, like, you can reconnect with the fans, bring a little bit more success to the club and do that. So yeah, Hollaback definitely. Thalhammer, yeah, I like what he said about we overachieved. He's like, let's manage our expectations and not expect this run that we went on to continue into the next season. So yeah, he definitely deserves a mention. But we're going with Mazu. I think, yeah, we're all in agreement there.
I want to make another mention, and I think then we probably mentioned everyone that's held on their job across the whole season, which is the departing manager of Anderlecht, Company, who, in my opinion, did a really good job, given circumstances. Of course, I also did know history-wise he didn't perform that well, but you can't compare the history with the current state of Anderlecht and the clubs around in the state of the league at the moment.
Yeah,
he deserves a mention as well. He did a good job in my opinion, especially towards the end of the season.
Yeah, no, he definitely deserves one. I think some of the football they played was really, really entertaining to watch. And I mean, if he can get Burnley to be entertaining, then he really is working miracles. But let's see how that one pans out. Young Player of the Season is our final kind of award that we all pick together, and then we're going to look at a signing of the season, but we'll just pick one each, I think, to keep that one fair and evenly spread. This one is interesting because Joris, you kind of mentioned he was a victim of being too versatile and being kind of the second best player that we could have put in each position, and then we had to pick them to matter. But I've got down here that we're going for Charles de Ketelaere. I think he has improved so much on last year in terms of his end product. Goals and assists, I feel like I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he's like quite far ahead of what he got last season. Last year we were kind of waxing lyrical about Noah Lang, and Charles was kind of, he's got the potential, he's going to be one of the next big things. But this year I think he's been better than Noah Lang. I think he's ahead of him in terms of, we didn't even mention Lang for our team of the season, but we mentioned Charles for a couple of positions. So I think he definitely deserves this Young Player of the Season award. There, obviously, being Belgian football, there's so many other players that could fit into this category, but I think of all the players that people are excited about, he's definitely one of the big ones. I'll hand over to you guys if you want to have some other honourable mentions or talk a bit more about Charles, but I think he definitely deserves this kind of award from us, and I'm just so excited to see what happens to him in the future, really.
You there almost said a name I wanted to throw in the mix, which is not a huge product of anyone in Belgium, of course, but Zirkzee, who is even younger than the Ketelaere still, so it's just a few months difference. But like, for me already, the Ketelaere was a bit already on the is he still a young talent boundary? But since we're taking that, I want to throw in Zirkzee as well. Oye has shown glimpses, but not enough consistently to claim this award. Also just didn't have enough minutes in the first half of the season. But a few other honorable mentions. To name a Beerschot player, Sebaoui, also not enough game time, but the things he has shown were promising. Wazinski at a really young age did play. He disappeared a bit out of the team, I think, but fairly regularly at Charleroi. Andreu at Charleroi also played a bit more and was more of a starter. Deserves a mention. Keita at Leuven as well. De Bast and Arnstad mostly at just a few games, of course, but these were the games of the season. Those are the most important games, so I think they've shown some things. At least Arnstad, De Bast, unfortunately, was very impressive, but got injured. And there's plenty more. I'm sure I'm forgetting. Maybe Scott even has a few more names that he deserves a mention. But yeah, I think it's fair to take the Ketelaere also because, well, he narrowly missed out on so many positions in the team of the season already.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I don't think, guys. I would have, it's funny you mentioned Luca Oyen there, Joris, because I personally would have absolutely loved to have been able to argue, that he should have won Young Player of the Season, but he obviously hasn't played enough or featured enough. I think there's every chance he might walk away with that award at some point over the next couple of years because I think he's outrageously good. He's definitely one of the ones to kind of keep an eye on over the next couple of years. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he does, in particular under Wouter Franken as well, who's pretty good with young players for the most part. So I expect him to be a really big part of Franken's Genk side over the next couple of years. But yeah, can't argue with King Charles, especially with him missing out on a team of the season place. Now is his moment. I wonder if he's still going to be in Bruges at the start of the season. Probably not. Lots of reports at the moment that a deal is pretty close now, and he's just he's just gone up another level, as Ben says, between last year where he was still good, and this season he's now starting to produce goods in a way that he didn't last year, which I think is why he's now justifying that the time is probably right for a move, in the close season. But yep, King Charles definitely Young Player of the Year.
Yeah, also,
Yeah.
just clarifying, I'm not taking it, I'm making it sound a bit more like a consolation prize after missing out. It's definitely not because of that only, at least. It's a very small part of the reasoning. But you guys mentioned it already also at the European level. He showed some good things the last few weeks of the season. It petered out a bit, but well, not dramatically, I think. So, and it's also normal with a young player. It's inherent at this award.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I just quickly looked. I think he scored 3 goals in the league last season and got 14 this year. So, I mean, that's just an incredible improvement. His finishing just looked good. His heading's good as well. He's good in the air. So, yeah, excited to see where he does end up. Another player I did have was from St. Truden and Standard. Alderkiel. I think he had a pretty good season. Obviously chucked in at the deep end in Standard, but then ended up in St. Truden. Didn't feature straight away, but then kind of fought his way into the side. And yeah, part of that really good defence. So a shout out to him as well. Final award is the signing of the season. Each got to pick one. So, Scott, I'm going to go for you first. Who is your signing of the season?
Well, I was kind of umming and ahhing about 2 players who we've mentioned kind of quite a lot already, but for different reasons. One of them being Vinicius Souza, who I think's been really impressive and has just shown you what can be achieved with a loan system. And the other one is Antwerp's Michael Frey. And I say that just on the basis that I don't think anybody thought he was going to do quite as well for Antwerp as he has done this season. And when you bear in mind how overly reliant, and he has been, Antwerp have been overly reliant on him over the course of the season. I think he's been responsible for round about 45% of all of their goals, which is just an unbelievable stat if you think about it. I think his consistency and his output has surprised me. I didn't think he was going to get anything close to that. So, in terms of what they got for their money, I think he has certainly exceeded expectations. So I think those two are pretty good shouts, but for different reasons.
Yeah. No, I like those two. Joris?
Definitely good shouts, indeed. I actually overlooked Frey. I don't know how, because now he's quickly racing. I'm not sure if he makes the top, but close to the top at least on my list. Andreu, and well, I've lexed to recall too much about him, but Zorgan, Charleroi definitely are good signings. The most left field one I've put in there, which I'm not so convinced about now already, but Cafaro at Standard was a good winter signing. Nieuwkoop was a good one for Union, of course. And my 2 top ones before, well, Frey definitely is in this top 3 then, but one is from before the season, is Gomez from Anderlecht, and Skof Olsen, well, probably the title decider for Club Brugge, even though he only came in winter. Just because he was so crucial in the title race, I've put him there. Now I think about that, I'm also already feel Ben coming that Opare is also a really good signing at Serre in the winter, which is definitely true at the other end of the table. It's definitely true. There's definitely a few shouts there that I mentioned a few here. I'm probably still there's plenty of others that deserve a shout.
Yeah, so I'll ask you for you're going to have to pick one each there. We can't be having 2s. For me, yeah, I've got a couple down, like Leisner, obviously I've spoken about before, Bauer as well, at St. Truden. I thought they were big signings. The strikers for Anderlecht, obviously they needed them, but Kwame and Xerxes, they're definitely worth a mention in this kind of spot. There's just been so many, haven't there? My one, I've said it so many times this season, I'm not going to change my mind here, is Herve Coffey. I think he's been the signing of the season just because the upgrade, I think what load of waffle he's spoken about it quite a few times as well, like the upgrade that they had in the terms of their goalkeeper position by getting him in has just been ridiculous when you look at their last season to this season. So he's won the matches, I think, with some of his saves. So My sign of the season is definitely Herb Coffey. You guys can battle it out for who gets Mikkel Frey, unless one of you's happy to cede Michael Frey and take someone else. But yeah, I'm going Herb Coffey. Yoris, who are you going for?
I will pick Gomez also more for the larger picture, or I suppose also I think whenever he leaves, hopefully not this season, this summer yet, but I think he will give that club a huge financial boost. Well, a non-artificial financial boost, which they terribly need, and that might bring them good in the future. So in that sense, it could be a very significant one. But well, who am I to predict such things, of course?
And Scott, I'm guessing you're going to go for Frey, but you're welcome to change your mind.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. It's kind of things have fallen into place nicely, I think, actually, with that, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. That rounds up our end of season awards for the 2021-2022 season. Congratulations to all the winners. I'm sure you're thrilled. I'm sure this means more than any other award you've received in football, and I can imagine why. I guess a couple of kind of housekeeping before we go. If you haven't listened to our interview with James Kelly on his book Golden, and what are you doing, firstly, and then just go and listen to it straight after this, because it's such a fantastic interview, if we do say so ourselves. We really enjoyed it. I'm halfway through the book now. I think I said I was halfway through the book when we recorded, but I'm over halfway through the book, I guess you could say. Scott might have read it twice by the time I get to the end of it, who knows? But it's a really, really enjoyable book, and James is a really, really great guy, and we're so glad that he has put together this book because it's just such a great source of information. We'll obviously be back again in closer to pre-season, which actually isn't that far away, a couple of weeks now, with our pre-season preview as things start to fall into place in terms of transfers. Obviously, it's going to be a weird season, this one, with the World Cup just kind of slap bang in the middle of it, much to everyone's delight. I'm sure everyone's absolutely buzzing for that World Cup. Not seeing any negativity around that. But yeah, we can't wait to get started on that. Scott and Joris, anything you want to add before we round off this 2021-2022 season?
Never giving me a break.
I think it's just been really... I think it's been really great to kind of sit down and just celebrate some of the great performances and give out lots of honourable shouts as well for people who maybe didn't quite make our final cut, but certainly deserves kind of some acknowledgement. And really looking forward to starting work already on our bumper pre-season preview in a few weeks, which is always one of our most eagerly anticipated episodes of the entire season. And this year we're going to go all out, and we thought we'd spoiled you last year, but just you wait.
Yeah, that depends a bit on the teams, of course. Not going to make false promises here. But alone with the coaches, we probably can fill a whole episode, Don't worry. And well, also again, apologies if we forgot someone that you really think. Please contact us. Give a comment on the release tweet or anything. If you really forgot something and you have a case for it, go for it.
Absolutely. And yeah, just a massive thank you to you, the listeners, for supporting us throughout this year. I mean, we did not expect to be where we are only 2 years into the podcast, to have this many people engaging with Belgian football. And yeah, we're absolutely delighted that people have taken the time out of their busy days to listen to us. We're really thankful to all the guests we've had on this year. We can't wait to get some more for you next season as well. And who knows, guys, we may actually get to go to Belgium this next season. It's got to happen sooner rather than later, because yeah, I mean, it's been far too long. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you some stuff from the grounds and that as well, which we're really looking forward to. But yeah, as I said, thank you very much. Leave a review on this one if you liked it. You can get in touch with us all the usual ways, through our Twitter account, also through our Gmail account as well, or you can find us all individually on Twitter to get in touch if you have any kind of ideas of stuff you want us to do next year going through on the podcast. As you always said, if you've got any kind of responses to this in terms of players you think we missed out, we're happy to listen to you and disagree with you on that, or apologise because we've absolutely messed it up. But we think we've done a pretty solid job in terms of our team of the season. So for the final time of the 2021-22 season, Scott and Yoris, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for joining me.
As always, wouldn't miss it for the world. See you next season, everyone.
Yes, it's been a blast, and it will only get better, I'm sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed it will. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you very, very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.